Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Your mom.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, something sinister you saw that you've never told anyone, a strange feeling you get around that nice old lady across the street, how to meditate while waiting in line for an hour to get into Walmart to pick up a single box of coffee filters. Tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. It's 832-847-7837 or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host. Her nails suddenly look fabulous, but our attorneys won't allow us to say why. Melissa Morgan!
Well, that beautiful More Cowbell was brought to us by Gracie Day, and her fantastic parents, Deneen and Michael, gave us permission to use it. Deneen sent me the video of Gracie playing in her amazing new house that her parents built her. It has a little baby-sized white picket fence and a little mailbox. And Deneen said she was going to slip a bill in the mailbox for building the house for Gracie. But she was on her trampoline, I believe. And
yes, she was.
And Deneen took a video of her saying More Cowbell, and producer Mark managed to isolate that. And that is the More Cowbell for this week, which couldn't be a more perfect cowbell.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, More Cowbell. And thank you, Gracie Day, for lending us your dulcet tones. And the entire time Mark was working on the editing the video for audio, he kept saying, she's a star in the making.
Oh, absolutely. She's got a great name, too.
Isn't Gracie Day just an exquisite name? But yeah, she's a beautiful little girl, and her parents are wonderful and listeners to the podcast. And when I got the video of her saying More Cowbell, I was like, that's perfect. We need to use that. So I promise I asked for permission, and Deneen said permission 100% granted. I have it in written form if any attorneys need to contact me about using her voice or image. So
yes, we
were really grateful for that. And speaking of grateful, this has been such an interesting week. I promise you that we have interviews coming up that are going to be worth the wait. It's just everyone being on lockdown has made scheduling difficult for everything. Scheduling people to be interviewed for something like a podcast is, sometimes difficult and problematic. During a pandemic, it's, ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Of course it is.
And producer Mark mentioned coffee filters at the beginning, which I wanted to say. I have seen, I don't sleep a lot sometimes, and I've seen way too many videos that show all of the uses for coffee filters. You can use them, for toilet paper, and people are showing them using them to separate plants. And
oh, okay, I was going to say, I hope they're not showing them how to use it like toilet paper. But
they don't show that, thank God. But people are. I don't think there's a shortage of feminine products, but people are using them for panty liners, let's say. Anyway,
okay.
I had no idea the coffee filter was so versatile, and I feel so educated now. I'm all educated up on my coffee filters.
I am too. And hey, your nails look great.
Oh, why don't you shut the fuck up?
Yeah, we got.
Why don't you shut up?
We got to do that on the down low.
I can't believe you fucking said that.
And my hair looks great, too.
Your hair looks great. And if you, take a drive to the San Fernando Valley for a haircut in a parking lot, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But you don't fucking call me out on my nails, fuckface.
Oh, you did those yourself, didn't you?
I have been for 9 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looks like Gracie Day's friend who has a head injury did mine. That's what it looks like a 2-year-old with
No.
a head injury has done my nail. Anyway, let's not discuss my nails right now.
It's just an amazing world we're living in right now. Where
It is a weird
to get
situation.
Basic personal care done. You've got to like you got to go and like slip a guy a note.
Right.
Slip him a fin. Slip him
It's very drug dealish.
It is. It's like
drive by slowly, honk once. That's how you'll know. You can go in the parking lot and a guy with a pair of scissors comes out and trims you up, and then you get back in your car and you wear a mask and
right. Exactly.
It's very drug dealish.
It's very drug dealish because it is. Everybody's wearing masks, and it's
right.
yeah.
I am. Thank you for saying that, actually, because I believe I received my beautiful masks from Tipster Tibet after we had recorded last week. So if I have not said thank you to Tibet, I want to say thank you. She sent us 4 beautiful masks that she had made with her own hand. One of them is made out of material with a unicorn on it, and I love it very much.
Yeah,
and she made
it's cute.
A black one for Mark. She actually probably made 2 for Mark, 2 for me, but I am taking 3 of them. And one is a floral print, and one is a reversible, like purple and black, and then the black one. So Mark gets the black one, and I get the other 3.
You didn't tell me one of them. You took one of mine.
Tough shit. How about that?
How about that?
Who's the one that goes out most often?
You.
Thank you. All right. Who braves the out of doors to walk the dog? I go out more often. I get 3 of the 4 masks that were sent to us, so shut up. Okay, thank you. And so thank you, Tipster Tibet. And we received the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my life, and that is from our beloved tipster Debbie in Cincinnati. And she has a shop, an Etsy shop. It's Material Girl Store. I'll have to get that exactly correct. But she makes, and I've mentioned her several times on the podcast because her work, I never thought it'd be something I would have, but I absolutely thought about, getting it for other people who have American Girl dolls and who have daughters or nieces or even collect dolls themselves. Her work is so fantastic.
It's really something. It's unbelievable.
So I do have to tell the story because I know Debbie will get it and hopefully everyone else will too. So I opened this package thinking, what on earth is this? It has Siren's name on the front with a circle and a line through it, like don't let Siren get this. And I opened this package and it is it's not an official American Girl doll, but it doesn't matter. To me, she's perfection. Apparently she was from Target. Her name was Clarissa, and she has blonde hair and blue eyes. And Debbie had scratched out the name Clarissa and wrote Melissa under it, which is hilarious. And she sweetly called her my mini-me, which is not at all true because Clarissa's a beautiful little doll. She has little freckles, and she's just... And I say a little doll. She's, the size of the American Girl doll. I guess they're like probably 18 inches or pretty big. And she has outfits that will knock your fucking socks off. She has hair accessories with a unicorn horn. She has a mermaid outfit with a little mermaid bra and a little fishtail. She has a unicorn outfit with a skirt with unicorns on it. She has black sparkly yoga pant leggings. She has black sparkly shoes.
It's pretty
But
detailed.
wait, I'm getting to the... So she has a red t-shirt, and Debbie has taken our logo, the skull wearing headphones, and some blood spatter behind it, and put it in the middle of a heart, and then put a unicorn horn on top of the skull coming out of the head.
It's brilliant.
And she gave me the JPEG, and we are talking to a local mom and pop printing company here in Santa Clarita who is going to try to make a couple runs of shirts for us, a limited edition, using Debbie's amazing artwork. She did it's just spectacular. So,
and by the way, I found her website. Go to Etsy.com and then just look Material Girl Doll Shop.
There you go. Thank you, Material Girl Doll Shop. And I haven't gotten to the best part because producer Mark likes to interrupt me right at the apex of what I'm trying to say. She has a red t-shirt on with this awesome design, and we're going to do t-shirts. But my favorite part was that she was on the counter in the kitchen standing up because I wanted anyone who came to her house, which would be no one, to see her. But we had our air conditioning wonderful dude, Mason, come, who has kids. He has at least 2 that I know of. And he walked by and he goes, "Is that an American Girl doll, but kind of dark?" And I thought I was going to shit my pants laughing, because Debbie made a messenger bag for Clarissa slash Melissa, who has it's black and white houndstooth. It's the most amazing messenger bag, and it has a heart on the front, and it says true crime and like script. Inside it, she had a lot of reading material, People magazine with true crime stories, a little copy of I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Yeah, that's the stuff that really amazed
Skelter.
That's the stuff that really amazed me. Little books and magazines that are absolutely detailed, unbelievable.
Yeah, just perfection. She put them on the back of foam, or on the front of foam, little thin foam, so they're stiff. They look like books and magazines. It's just the details are overwhelming. And if you go on Debbie's site, you'll see she's so goddamn creative, just spectacularly creative. And I guess the number one seller is robes and slippers for the dolls, I guess for like sleepovers. She makes little unicorn, like robes with little unicorns on them, like llamas on them, little slippers for their feet that are like bunnies. They have bunny ears and noses. I mean, it's just, she's just, so creative and amazing. It was, that is a really fantastic gift that, I am just so excited about that design and making new t-shirts, because, I think they're just going to be fantastic. And we can put the design on anything. Maybe we'll put it on, tote bags or something, but I'm so overwhelmed with the genius of Debbie and what she did, and overwhelmed by the gift, because Clarissa Melissa is pretty fucking cool.
She's kind of scary too. It's an 18-inch doll, so I mean, I'm not. Obviously, I have not had a lot of experience with American Girl type dolls, and you walk in to where. That's our little secret. I walk into the kitchen and she's on the counter there, and I'm like,
staring
holy
at you.
Shit! There's a baby on my.
There's a tall child standing on my counter wearing a
tote bag. They're really, anyway, it's very cool.
Thank you, Debbie, with all of our heart. We really can't thank you enough. And thank you, Tibet, for the masks. I mean, we are just so blessed. I can't believe the things that our amazing tipsters send us. And speaking of that, please feel free to send us any ideas for episodes you would like us to cover, shows, stories that you find interesting. You can send that to our email at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can call us at our tipster hotline at 832-847-7837. And I would love to ask a favor that is free. If you take the time to go to Apple Podcasts and rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, we would be very grateful. There is a serial reviewer who has changed her review 3 times, and she cracks me up. She at first gave us a 5-star review, and then gave us a 3-star review, and then said I got everything wrong on one episode, and then changed it to a 4-star review, but said I talked for 29 minutes straight. So that's pretty funny, because I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know why you still listen if we're so problematic. That's the thing, kids. There's hundreds of thousands of podcasts. You don't have to listen to this one, and you don't have to say how terrible you think we are. You can move on and find something you like and give them a 5-star review. I mean, it's like, I don't understand.
Well, you just because you're a very kind person and you don't understand the concept of trolls.
I don't understand the concept of trolls. You are correct, sir. Because if I don't like something, I mean, I don't listen anymore. I move on, but I don't take the time unless, someone hosting a show is like, I feel like that JFK was shot by John Benet Ramsey. Then I'm like, that's probably wrong. You should not say that. That's probably not true. But other than that, I'm not going to give a shit. I'll just move on. I mean, if someone does something egregiously wrong, I get it. And believe me, I endeavor to not do things that are incorrect. I really do. And if I do, I apologize. I try to anyway. Find it. If someone brings it to my attention, I appreciate that, but I really do work hard, and I try and give everything 2 to 3 sources. And the sources for this story are heartbreaking. And I was a little overwhelmed and emotional at the beginning of this, thinking I'm going to be able to do this. And then I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. So this story was brought to my attention by a true crime podcast listener. And I had never heard the story, and she was incensed. And I understand. And there is a lot of really good coverage in the victim's hometown, the St. Louis American, lots of interviews on St. Louis Public Radio with her family, and probably all of the information put together in the most concise place is a 55-minute documentary. And that was released in 2010 on Veterans Day, actually. She was in the military when she passed away. And believe me, there is a slant and an agenda, as there usually is in documentaries. But to me, it's mostly just laying out the facts. Now, obviously, the people involved have an opinion of what happened, and it does not agree with the official opinion from the military about her death. But it's called The Silent Truth, and you can find it on YouTube. It was released in 2010 on Veterans Day in theaters in St. Louis. And you can see it on YouTube in its entirety. And it's not a groundbreaking, brilliant film, but the information is pretty overwhelming. And what happened to her, I'm just still sort of blown away, especially when an outside source has taken a look at the information and come to the same conclusion that the military did. And I don't really know how. I don't know how that happens. But this is actually the case of Private LaVena Johnson from the St. Louis area in Missouri, where she was born and raised. And she's this beautiful, beautiful, intelligent, honor student, creative musician at her high school. And there is a military recruiter that's allowed to set up in the lobby, which I think pretty much every high school has that. I know mine did. I shied away from anything military because I didn't even like gym class. So I wasn't going to join something where you have to push yourself physically. That was not anything I ever wanted to do. I have several friends who've had military careers and have been very grateful to the military for the opportunities that they have gotten. I have several friends who managed to pay their way through school by joining the military. Completely understood why one would do that. This is an interesting case in someone who loses their life, not in combat, and really this was not a choice that LaVena had to make. LaVena's parents, John and Linda Johnson, are both psychologists, and John is a psychologist for the Army and has been for 25 years. And it's an interesting thing that his daughter comes to him and says, "Dad, do you have enough money to send all of us to college?" And John says, "I do. If I have to work longer than, I thought I might, you are going to college if you want to. That's up to you." And she says, "I think I'm going to go into the military. I'd like to pay for my own school. I want to go to school in California, and it's expensive." And John says, "Well, now, wait a minute. I don't want that to happen. I don't want you to go into the military. I will figure it out." And then he drops the bomb on her and says, "And more importantly, we're going to have to talk to your mom about this." And she's not going to like it. But Dr. Johnson says that LaVena, like her mother, Linda, when she decides something, she's undeterred. And her mother said, "No, I don't want you doing this." And she said, I'm doing it. So Dr. Johnson says, "So what you're telling me is that you're telling me you're doing this. You're not asking me." And she said, "Yeah, I'm just telling you this is what I'm doing." So she was going to join the military to pay for schooling in California. She wanted to go where she wanted to go, and it would have been a big expense out of state college and housing, but she wanted to pay for it herself. She's one of 5 kids, and the Johnsons live in a beautiful home and have successful careers and are planning for their kids to go to college. But LaVena is the girl who's like, I want to pay for this myself. So she joins the military, and she's been assigned to Balad, Iraq. And she was there about 8 weeks. And she was excited about coming home for Christmas. And she worked in the telecommunications department, so she had access to phones and the internet and was able to contact her family on a very regular basis, if not every day, every couple of days. And so she was able to waylay their fears because they were just, worried about her the entire time. And she's 19 years old. And about 8 days before her 20th birthday, on July 19th of 2005, her parents get that knock at the door that when your child, your family member, your spouse is in the military, that knock you never want to get, where there is a soldier on your front steps. And Dr. Johnson answers the door because Mrs. Johnson knows that she doesn't want to know why they're there. And Dr. Johnson answers the door, and they say, are you Private First Class LaVena Lynn Johnson's father? And he says, yes, I am. And they say, we regret to inform you that your daughter is deceased. Now, he doesn't know what has happened, but they come in and they sit down and talk. And it takes a little while for them to get to what their version is, and that she has committed suicide. Now, Dr. Johnson is like, I don't understand what you're saying. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Well, your daughter shot herself in the head in a contractor's tent across from her barracks. Why would she do that? She was depressed. We spoke to her 2 days ago. She was as happy as could be and excited about coming home for Christmas. What was she depressed about? Well, we don't know. But her habits changed. Well, what do you mean? What changed? Well, she's been eating a lot of ice cream.
What?
Dr. Johnson says, it's 120 degrees in the desert. She's eating ice cream because she's hot, maybe? Now, later on in the documentary, Dr. Johnson says, ice cream is one of the most consumable products made. If eating ice cream is a sign of depression and suicidal tendencies, they're really going to have a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I've got really severe depression.
Yeah. I'm suicidal because I'm very much into Chunky Monkey right now. Really. I mean, I don't know what to say. And even the outside agencies that have investigated this case have said that the problem started with notification. The problem started at the beginning with notification. You can say that. The notification was done very, very badly. And the way this family was treated is remarkably awful. I have so little information about how the military treats families. I don't know how this typically goes down. I've watched, a decade or more of NCIS shows. That doesn't mean I know how the military treats families when a troop member doesn't come home. Doing a little more digging, I get a little more depressed everything I find. It gets a little more depressing the more that I look into this. So to know that I don't want to say they fucked with the wrong family, but they kind of fucked with the wrong family. The Johnsons are a united force. Mrs. Johnson prefers not to talk much about the case because it's such an incredible thing, the way this team, this couple has gotten together Dr. Johnson says, I talk to people, the press, etc., about LaVena's case, and my wife handles the emotional part. And he's a therapist. He's a psychologist. He knows of what he speaks when it comes to the mental part of something as awful as this. Now, it would be embarrassing if you are a psychologist and your child kills himself. I'm sure that's happened. Someone in your family works in the mental health field, and you don't see the signs, and someone takes their own life. We don't always know what could have done that. Did something external change their brain chemistry? Is it a drug or alcohol or hereditary, things that have come down through the line that make you think there's no other solution than to end it. This is the only thing I can compare this to, and this is as bad, if not worse, than the Diane Sherman Young case. When you see a woman who dies in such a way that you don't know how the motherfuck they could have done this themselves. You don't know where to go. And believe me, the Johnson family has tried every avenue and are still trying. They are going to keep trying probably as long as they live. And I hope it gets more resolution before then. But Mr. Johnson is a force of nature, and he's not going to stop. And he has the smarts and the connections to get something done. I don't know. I don't want to see the number of bodies pile up. And this is what has happened. Since her case in 2005, there were 94 women who died. And she was the first, by the way, from Missouri, the first woman military member from Missouri to die in Iraq. There have been 94 U.S. women in the military. That was the first report I read. Now there are 143, and that number may be higher.
Are these all supposed suicides?
Well, a half of them are non-combat, and 25% of those are called suicides.
Okay. Wow.
I have statistics that will curl your hair and that are more upsetting than anything I can imagine. The Johnson family got a lot of help from Colonel Ann Wright, who, a lifetime military member who now is sort of a peace activist. She's changed her mind quite a bit, but she still works with families who have military members in different capacities. She speaks all around the world, but she has taken on LaVena's case and a few other women who ended up being sexual assault victims, and within a week to 10 days after they reported the assault, died in mysterious ways. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I find them conspiracy theories fascinating, but this is, I don't understand how a medical examiner could find LaVena's body and come to the conclusion they did. I can't understand how this outside source, which I will talk about later, that reviewed everything. It's a conglomeration of different forensic students from different universities, and they came to the same conclusion as the military. I think when you hear the details, you're going to say, what the fuck? As I did a lot of time during researching this case. And if you watch the documentary, I think you're going to say, what the actual fuck, quite a few times. Because I do not know how a 19-year-old girl is found in a contractor's tent across from her barracks. She's 5'1" and weighs 100 pounds. And she supposedly shot herself in the head on the left side when she's right-handed with an M16. She also, only after the Johnson family filled out numerous FOIA requests, got Congress people involved on their behalf, only then did they get the information about what happened to LaVena. And in my mind, I'm just going to have to come out and say it, the cover-up began at stage 1. So her family is notified of her death. A few days before her would have been 20th birthday, her parents are making her funeral arrangements. The military representatives that come to the Johnson home and say, we think you should consider a closed casket. And Dr. Johnson says, why? And they said, because it ain't pretty. And that's a quote.
Okay, okay, I've got a lot to say already, but Go ahead.
Dr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson insist on seeing their daughter before she is prepped for her funeral. They see that her nose has been broken and her teeth are knocked backwards. Her eye is hanging out of its socket. There are bruises and teeth marks and scratches on her upper body.
Jesus Christ.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I tried to bite myself. I know, that's dumb. But after reading this, I tried to bite my own shoulder, and I can't. I can bite my hands or limbs, but I couldn't. I just tried so hard to make this somehow seem like a suicide, and I can't. Her back and her right hand are doused in a flammable liquid and had been set on fire. Her genital area is bruised and lacerated, and lye has been poured into her vagina.
Oh, yeah, this is suicide. Yeah.
Yeah. There's debris around her body that suggested that she had been dragged into the tent. What looks like happened, there's a trail and a track of blood from outside the tent into the tent. What looks like what happened is that she had been attacked outside the tent. And then, obviously someone did what they could to cover up what happened a whole lot of different ways. I'm going to warn you, if you watch The Silent Truth, the documentary, there is a section where photographs had actually finally been released to the family. And they are difficult. They are difficult to see what had happened to this poor girl. It wasn't just a shot to her head. It was a whole lot of damage done to her body. Now, she's fully clothed. I don't know how someone pours lye into their own vagina and then puts their clothes back on.
It doesn't seem like that could be possible.
It really doesn't, does it? I mean, I just, the way she was found in the tent, her right arm is over her face. There's a cot between her and the rifle. If you're going to shoot yourself in the head on the left side from your right, even though you're right-handed, the gun would probably fall next to you, not on the opposite side of a cot. Again, she's 5'1", and an M16 is 40 inches long. And when Dr. Johnson, who knows a lot, says, how is this scientifically possible that my daughter, who's 5'1", could shoot herself with a 40-inch rifle? And they said, well, she could have used her toe.
Oh, I love that. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What? We've heard this in other cases, too. Using your toe.
Right. So I looked up what KBR the contractor, the tent. It was a dirty, messy, junk-filled tent that was owned by KBR, which stands for Kellogg, Brown and Root, and they're a subsidiary of Halliburton. They're a global provider of comprehensive solutions for aerospace and defense, energy and chemicals, intel and data science for federal and civilian markets. So they are, military contractors. And I just love the part that said chemicals, because many chemicals were used to damage Private Johnson. She sat down, in their words, on a bench and lit an incendiary device that, damaged her right hand. She then poured lye into her vagina and went into a tent and shot herself with her opposite hand with a rifle that she probably couldn't have done. And if she used her toe, I'm not sure how her shoes were still on, because they were still on.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, the more you read, the more you want to kill yourself and everyone else. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Now, Dr. Johnson is on top of it. And even though he has been given the worst news a parent can be given, one of his first questions is, did the ME conduct a rape test? And the answer is no. There was no reason for the medical examiner who conducted her autopsy in Iraq to do a rape test. And
Why?
Right. As it turns out, she had been raped and had reported it and had gone to the medical barracks and had gotten some treatment for a previous rape. And she did not disclose this to her family. And perhaps reporting it is what ended her life. I don't know. I don't think that she ended her own life, because I don't care how smart LaVena Johnson is. I don't know any woman who's going to blow off her hand, pour lye into her vagina, bite herself, somehow beat herself in the face to break her nose, push her teeth back, and pop her eye out of its socket, and then have the wherewithal to shoot herself in the head.
Is the military giving? I mean, are there any details other than just the ridiculous things they're saying? I mean, if somebody else, if there's an independent researcher that has confirmed what the military is saying, how do they explain all that?
Thank you, Producer Mark. What you're saying is very important, and this is very heartbreaking. But on the anniversary of her death, 6 years later, July 19th of 2011, a group of criminal justice students, they have a group called the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, CCIRI. It's a student club run by 3 different universities of criminal justice students, and they had selected LaVena Johnson's case. And they typically spend a year reconstructing a crime scene, trying to shed light on what has happened in a case, something they find, unusual. They said they spent 3 years. 3 years working on this case. They called it gut-wrenching. And they also said, there's nothing about this case that we could go back to the Army and say, you need to relook at it. We don't have anything new, and we can't find anything that shows wrongdoing.
What?
Right.
How could that?
I don't know.
There's no other detail other than that statement.
Yep.
There's no data. They didn't provide any background data that shows what they did to look into this.
No, but I can tell you, they got all of the same information that the Johnson family was finally given, almost by mistake. I will tell you that. They were given to it by a whistleblower. What happened was Mr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, requested all of the information on his daughter's case repeatedly. As I mentioned, numerous FOIA requests, numerous, before he was actually given the information on his daughter. He actually had to go to his local congressman, Congressman Clay, and he, on the family's behalf, intervened with the military and called a general before Congress and said, this was also during sort of the Pat Tillman, there's a lot of things.
Right, the friendly fire incident. Yeah, right.
So Congressman Clay used that as a jumping off point and said, I have a private in my jurisdiction who died in unusual circumstances, and I need someone to take a look at this. And on television, on a televised, congressional hearing, this general said, "Hey, if we get a report, we'll absolutely take a look at it." So, what happened was, Dr. Johnson received information, a lot of black and white photos of the crime scene that were so terrible that Dr. Johnson, who knows about mental health, at one point locked himself in his bathroom, and he said he cried for an hour. And he said he kept talking to himself. Don't have a heart attack. Don't have a stroke. Your family needs you. You need to see this through. But he was so overwhelmed and overcome by emotion that he lost it, in his own words.
Oh God, this just breaks me.
It's heartbreaking. And he's really a tower of strength. He saw in these photos just a weird, innocuous black and white picture of a CD-ROM that says all photos about this case number, blah, blah, blah. So he is like, where's the CD-ROM? And they're like, oh, we've released all the information that we can to you. We can't release anything else because there are third-party interests that their reputation could be damaged.
Oh, really?
Third-party interests and their reputation could be damaged, and their privacy.
Okay. So just want to make sure I understand. The photos that Dr. Johnson got were provided by anonymous whistleblower?
No, I'm getting to that. I apologize.
Okay.
The photos were provided by the military, by the Army. A whistleblower saw what the family was going through a year later, trying to get information on their daughter's case, and sent the CD-ROM to the Johnson family.
I see.
So they ended up with a copy of it, and it showed in color all of the horror. And I'm telling you, it's a very short sequence in the documentary, The Silent Truth, but it's one that'll stick with you. So if you don't want to see that, it's in the 40-minute mark. It's quick, and it flashes several pictures on the screen, and they'll stick with you. They'll stick with you about what happened to this beautiful girl. So Dr. Johnson is a force of nature, and he says, once I'm done crying, I get angry again, and then I'm ready to fight.
So I have a question.
Please.
They finally got the CD-ROM, and they have a lot of horrible pictures of I'm going to call it a crime scene.
Yeah, let's just call it that.
Was there anything in there that damaged any third parties or that?
No.
Yeah, just pictures.
Thank you for asking that question.
Pictures of the crime scene.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it hurts third parties, all right. It hurts the fucking military.
It hurts the military, the contractors, and the people that did this to her. People or persons who did this to her, quite frankly. One of the quotes that Dr. Johnson says that this is where I just feel like they picked the wrong girl in the wrong family, because this family isn't going to stop. Dr. Johnson says to one of the representatives who's come to the home numerous times to talk about LaVena's case, he says, "Did you know I've been a military psychologist for 25 years? And the person said, "No, I didn't know that, sir." And he said, "I know who you people are, and I know your arrogance. And when you make a determination, you don't have the strength to to look into a situation that may change your mind. And
well then, good for him.
I just wanted to get in a ball and cry, because that's the kind of strength that if anything like this happened to any of us, we would be really blessed to have a family that they got together and they decided who's better at what. It's not just her immediate family. Private Johnson's extended family have been involved. It's like they have, they're, an octopus with 8 arms. And they got together like the military and decided who's better at what, and have broken up different parts and said, you take care of this, I'll take care of this. And they are still trying all these years later to get some sort of justice. And in the meantime, more women in the military end up in unusual situations in their death. Their deaths are considered suicides. They list several women's names in the documentary that their lives ended in horrible ways. And something that Colonel Wright, who is, a family spokesperson and is an advocate for them, said that she thinks that military recruitment should not be allowed in high schools any longer because they're in a vulnerable place, these kids. And I don't know that I agree with that. I think it's your own choice. Nobody forces you to sign up. There isn't a draft. You can join the military. You can choose to join the military or not. But something that Colonel Wright once handed out with all of the pamphlets that are handed out to people they want to recruit is something that states 1 in 3 women in the military will be raped. Do you still want to join?
Yeah, the military will never do that.
Absolutely, they will never do that.
Never do that.
I just liked the fact that she, wanted that included. I get where she's coming from, and you're right, that will never be included. And it was a statistic that shocked me. I am unaware. I was completely unaware of the amount of sexual assault in the military. You hear about it. It gets pushed down. You hear about it not that often. It gets pushed down. But these numbers are terrifying. And what is even a stranger connection, whether there's a connection or not, besides the patterns of all these assaults that are being, covered up or not investigated, many of the people that are transferred to Iraq come from Fort Hood. And Fort Hood in Texas is a huge military base. And what is so strange right now for me is that people keep emailing me about 2 people missing from Fort Hood. At this moment, there are 2 soldiers that are missing in recent weeks and months from Fort Hood.
Really?
One's a male, one's a female. I have no idea, what's happening at Fort Hood. I don't know if one base needs to be looked at, and it probably never will be. But it's odd to me that most of the troops from Fort Hood went to Balad in Iraq. And all of this, 143 women, U.S. women, have died in Balad. 143. And
it's just in Balad.
Yes.
I thought it was, in Iraq, but or
in the Balad base.
Just in the Balad base.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And most of the troops have come from Fort Hood.
Okay.
I'm not
really,
saying, I know.
Come on.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am not a conspiracy theorist.
Well, I know you're not, honey, but sometimes.
Thanks for calling me honey.
Sorry, you're welcome. But sometimes, I don't like to buy into conspiracy theories either. I don't. But sometimes you got to ask yourself, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because there's something going on, obviously.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, and a lot went on with Private LaVena Johnson. A lot went on to that poor, sweet, beautiful girl's body, her physical being. I can't imagine what went on with her spirit and her soul. but she kept it together and didn't tell her family. And maybe that was a mistake, or maybe it was what she should, she thought she had to do at the time. But the fact that this strong girl wanted to join the military so that her family didn't incur the costs of her education, because it was going to be not going to a community college down the street. She had big dreams and wanted to finance them herself, and didn't want her family on the hook, even though they had prepared for that and let her know that they could cover it. She did this to stand on her own 2 feet, only to be knocked off of her own 2 feet, to be shot and bitten and beaten and set on fire. I don't understand how not only the military and the medical examiner thinks it's a suicide, but how this conglomeration of criminal justice students, the CCIRI, the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about your organization, but you have gone down, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and then the fact that they didn't release any data to back up, maybe they did. But what you're telling me is all they did was release a statement.
Yep, they did a phone interview with the St. Louis Public Radio, and they said that we're really faulting the Army for poor communication.
Oh, boy.
The problem is the way the notification happened, the lack of information given to the family fast enough. They really messed up there. Oh, okay. Oh. But a rape kit wasn't done on a soldier that had reported a rape and had received medical treatment, which they would never have known about unless the CD-ROM was leaked to them. Somehow that is not something that you shame or call out the military on. I mean, I can't even, I don't even want to go back to the Diane Sherman Young case, but I'm going to. Shooting and setting yourself on fire, not things women do. Women don't like a mess. You take a bunch of pills, you put your head in the oven, maybe you hang yourself. It isn't really something women do, but the number of women that shoot themselves is really low, and the number of women who set themselves on fire is lower. And a woman who is capable of biting herself, unless she's some sort of alien, and a woman who's able to pour, terrible caustic chemicals into her own genitals and then has the wherewithal to shoot herself in the head with her non-dominant hand?
With a rifle that is
too big for her.
It's too big for her, yeah.
And she would use her toe, but when you see her picture, she's wearing her shoes. So she shot herself in the head and put her shoes, which, by the way, had ties on them. She had to put her shoes back on and tie them. They weren't, old man Velcro slip-ons. She had to put her shoe back on and tie her shoe back after she shot herself in the head with her toe. I don't know what to say, but this one really got me. This one really got me. And there's part of me that doesn't want to know more about the military. I'm grateful for everyone who's ever been in service to this country. I am grateful. I can't imagine doing what you do every day. I feel the same way about law enforcement. And I realize people sometimes that are in the military get into law enforcement because they're a similar way of doing things and a similar background, and you have a similar mindset that it might work for you. But I am always going to be grateful for anyone in the military. But I am not grateful if there are things like this that happen, and there are more of these things that happen than I can imagine. I'm not grateful for this. Not only do the details of this case haunt me, what bothers me is that the person or persons responsible, and I do not believe it was Private Johnson responsible for her own death. Those people could be released now. They could be
I'm 15
out
years
of service.
Yeah, 15 years later, they're out of the military by now, almost certainly, unless they're career people they would be really high-ranking people by now.
Well, they could be out of the military. They could be back in the States, and that sort of predator could be running around and doing whatever horrible things they can think to do. And we would never know.
Absolutely.
Because this was covered up. I just have to say, I believe her death was completely covered up. And while I understand that it's a small group of people that may know what actually happened to Private First Class LaVena Lynn Johnson, if anyone knows anything, I beg of you, don't call the military. Call your local congressperson. Call the Department of Justice. You can call us. You can email us. You can call us. But please keep saying something and helping the Johnson family get justice for Private Johnson. And more cowbell.
If you'd like to become a patron of the podcast, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.